this, and there isn't a slideshow or something. It's just me. So, hey, what's up? All right. So the book I'm going to train tonight for our team call is GoPro from Eric Worre. So it's 7 steps to becoming a professional network marketer. So I'm going to go through the chapters kind of briefly, or at least a few of them, and then we'll finish them up next week. So chapter 1, he talks mainly about, so first off, yes, I recommend getting the book. After I finished reading it all, well, it's audio, so listen to it. It became very clear that a lot of us are really overcomplicating our careers in a very big way. And I say it's a career because he talks a lot about how if you are not a professional network marketer, this is probably going to be a very frustrating experience for you, because most people are like, well, I'm putting in all this effort to get these customers and I'm not getting a whole lot out of it. And it's like, well, yeah, that's what happens when you're an amateur or you're kind of posing as somebody who knows more about it than they actually do. It'll end up being very frustrating if you're not working at this at a professional level, or at least conducting yourself as a professional, even if it is not your full-time profession. Does that make sense? So he talks about network marketing. It isn't a perfect industry, clearly, but it's better than most. So if you can fantasize for a minute about what your perfect career situation might look like, you can work a business whenever you want. You can work, period, whenever you want, wherever you want, as long as you have a Wi-Fi signal. You get to talk to all kinds of people. The more social you are, the better outcome you will typically have. You can wake up late. You can sleep in. You can go to bed whenever you want. You don't have a boss looking over your shoulder. Like all of these perks, if you will. You can take as much time off if you need. Your pay is dependent upon the outcome based off of your personal effort. Now, we can talk about effort and pay and everything a little bit later, because in the beginning, your pay is not generally commensurate with your effort. You have an effort that's way up here, your pay is generally down here, and then a few years into it with consistency, it goes like this, and then you start being paid about what your effort looks like. And then after that, it starts to tip the scales the other way, and then your effort is far lower and your pay is exceedingly higher than the amount of effort you put into the business. So he talks about it in the book, but his breakdown, his realistic timeline for that, I thought was the most real I've heard anybody express in a very long time, about what the time period in which you can expect for things to that of that nature to happen to get to a degree of professionalism. And he was very much like, you are solid multiple 6-figure a year by like years 6 and 7. Okay, 6 and 7. So too many people join our industry thinking within a year I'm going to skyrocket to the top. You might. It's very unusual. Very, very unusual. You would definitely be the unicorn of the company to have that happen. So chapter 1 is all about how it isn't a perfect industry, but it's way better than any others. And he breaks down, I guess, the 5 different professions. They're not really worth going into per se, but like blue collar, white collar, sales, and then something else. So it doesn't really matter where it is, but he goes into the niche information about why blue collar is not that great, why white collar is not that great, and why sales, obviously this is sales, but we have compounding sales based off of team acquisition, and typical sales isn't like that. If you're not out making the sale, you don't get the commission. And it isn't like that with us. Like I can wake up and have whole new orders that I never had to do anything for. And then clearly I have a commission structure that only goes 2 lines deep. In our company, other companies, you can commission all the way down 5 or 6 lines deep, which I think is pretty freaking phenomenal. However, that's not where our company is right now, because we're a new company. I think that too will evolve over time. So chapter 2 talks about going into the professional side of network marketing and what that workflow looks like. So the real value here is learning the skills that go along with network marketing. And chapter 1 talks a lot about finding your people. So whenever you, hang on, cheers. So whenever you start any network marketing company, the company is going to say, make your list. Make your list of Frank's list. People you know from ballet, your kid's ballet, people you know from your kid's school, people you met, at yoga class. You're supposed to make a list. Well, I think where network marketers stop is they're like, oh, but I don't want to reach out to these people. Like, doesn't that feel spammy? Doesn't that feel gross? Okay, well, this book was tons of value because he's like, you got to get out of, first off, yes, make a list of every single person you know. Everybody goes on the list. Now, you don't have to prospect every person on this list. In fact, you should not prospect every single person on this list. But number one, make a comprehensive list. Everybody goes on it. If they're 90, they go on it. If they're 18, they go on it. If they've told you to go away, never come back, they go on the list. Your dentist goes on the list. Your sister goes on the list. Your cousin goes on the list. Everybody, okay? Am I making myself clear? Every human that you know goes on the list, okay? And then you start thinking about, who do they know? Well, my sister's best friend, she goes on the list. Well, my brother's wife, clearly she's family, whatever, she goes on the list. Well, I know that my friend is friends with some girl named Sarah or whatever, she goes on the list. So everyone that you know, someone that they know, you guys probably have people in common, everybody goes on the list. So the second degree of separation. So the point of the list is so you can understand just how diverse your network is. People who network the best and become professional friend makers, not so that you can sell to them or offer your opportunity for them, because that's not the objective. The objective is to find a creative way to stay in touch. Maybe they need to know where a dentist office is. Maybe they need a referral for a recipe for Tuscany soup. I mean, who knows? People ask me for random stuff all the time. And I am just hoping to be an avenue, a conduit for a connection somewhere. If I don't have the answer, I'm thinking, well, who do I know that might have the answer? Well, that's kind of the purpose of the list, is so that you can understand, who is it that I know? And specific to our company on our app, you're going to want to put everybody in that app. And then you need to come up with a creative way to stay in touch with them. So the app will remind you, hey, it's probably time to catch up with, Blakely. Like, oh, wow, I haven't talked to Blakely in like 3 months. You probably would never have thought to catch up with her because you've got like 95 other people that you're catching up with, or at least that are on the front of your mind. Like, there's no possible way you're going to remember every single human that you've ever come in contact with. Doesn't mean you don't care for Blakely. You would love to know what she's up to. It's just not top of mind. So your app will remind you, like, hey, reach out to her, see what's up. Hey, Blakely, I guess I did see that we had a baby on Facebook. How's that going? Could you use a freezer meal? Could you have any questions? I've got a mom, I'm a mom of a million kids, or whatever. There's always a reason to reach out to somebody, even if their name pops up onto your app and you say a quick prayer for them and you want to let them know that. That's a beautiful reason to reach out to somebody and say, hey, your name came up, and you know what? I just said a prayer for you. Is there any specific intentions that I can throw up to the old JC? And maybe they are having a really bad time, and that one text is going to make such a huge difference in their day. Like, take that as a gift, okay? So you're putting everybody on the list. You're making sure you're diligent and having a creative way to reach back out to them and to just stay top of mind. Once you're putting your content out, which we're going to talk about, putting out your content in the right way and then inviting people to your opportunity. This is about finding people. So we'll talk about that later. But for right now, this is how you're going to find people. The objective to create a very full reach out list, funnel list, active contact list, whatever you want to call it, friend list, is to add a minimum 2 people every day. 2 people that are not already on that list. 2 humans that you have come in contact with. So think of how many people, I must have come in contact and actually spoken to 15 different people today, between church and then the fall festival bazaar at my kid's school. It was like 15 people. I didn't bother to get anybody's information. Like, hey, I'd love to catch up, or hey, I'd love to keep in contact. Or, hey, I'd love to invite you to a local wine tasting. I didn't do any of that, right? I just wasn't thinking of it, but I am thinking of it now. And then starting tomorrow, I mean, that's actually going to be the assignment that's dropped into the group meet today, is to keep a list. I'm going to start doing that every day. I'm going to make sure I add at least 2 new people to the list. All right. So think about also how you can get out more and start expanding your horizons on who you're talking to. So is there some place that you can offer some volunteer time to? What about the people in a different department at your job that you've never spoken to? You just walk right by and on your way to your area of where you work. Maybe you should stop and just say, hey, how's it going in here? You guys want to tell me real quick what it is that you do over here? Or what do you like most about this department? Try to meet people on purpose. Come up with a new hobby. Maybe bars and clubs. I don't know if that's a great place to start talking to people, to really network with them. But there's lots of great places. If you go to a wine bar or something, there's lots of great people there to talk to. And it's a very social environment that's not terribly distracting. So I'm not sure what clubs look like these days. I haven't been in a club in a very long time. But if it's like that, like there's no way you're talking to anyone. You're just like screaming in somebody's ear and they're like, okay, you're actually not hearing anything. You're just going deaf over and over and over again. So maybe not the best place. But take a fitness class somewhere, take a yoga class, take a painting class. Tons of opportunities to get out and meet people. Just like walking around a fall festival or a bazaar is a great place to meet people. You see the artists that create handmade stuff, foods and, honeys and local delights, all that stuff. Great place to meet people who are artisan minded, who would actually probably love to partner with you at a future event. If you can hang out for a few minutes and talk to them about what it is that they do, inevitably, they'll probably ask what you do too. So the idea of prospecting is finding people to keep in touch with. It is not about prospecting them actively. It's about putting yourself out there and then at least meeting them and adding them to the list so you never run out of people to talk to. Amateurs always say, well, there's no people. I mean, there's no one left to talk to. I've talked to all of them. Like, you've talked to everybody? Really? No, you've not actually talked to everybody. That's being dramatic. You've definitely not talked to everybody. All right. So skill number 1, if you're taking notes, skill number 1, finding the people. And then I've listed a lot of ways to find the people. I've listed the 4 different ways that you should go about meeting people, or at least keeping a comprehensive list. Number 1 was keep the comprehensive list. Everybody goes on it. And when I say everybody, I mean everybody. Number 2 is all those people that are on that list, start thinking of who they know and then put those people on the list. Number 3 is expand the list. And then number 4 is to network on purpose. Okay. So number 3 with expanding the list is finding a creative way to get out of your, or to find a way to contact them and keep in touch. And then number 4 is to network on purpose, get out, start meeting new people. Skill number 2 is, looking at my notes, inviting people to understand what we have and what we do. So this goes back to why our team, specifically Team EMPWR, has 3 opportunity calls in the first 2 weeks of the month. I set it up to have opportunity calls in the first 2 weeks of the month so that new teammates would have the whole last half of the month to reach the sales in order to hit their fast start volume, right? It was on purpose. And the first couple of weeks, when you're talking about this opportunity, first off, you almost can't over talk about it because there are, what is it, like 30%, 20% of your following actually sees your content. So you have to have multiple touch points, okay? Touch points look like a social media post, social media story, if you have a website, then a website post or a blog post, an email, a text, a phone call. So if you were to do just 6 of those, and on average, people need 7 to 12 touch points before they're willing to react, that's only 6. You'll have to have another touch in another way. Would you do those every single day of the week? No, that's ridiculous. You might do one like every week or 2. So look at the time frame on that. We're looking at 7 weeks minimum that a brand new person exposed to your brand is going to be willing to make a move and either look at your opportunity or look at your product. So when you start talking to people, imagine it's going to, just put it in your brain, it's going to take 2 to 3 months for them to even come close to being ready to make a move on my product or opportunity if it's for them anyway. Okay. I think too many marketers get into this thinking, well, I said it, why aren't you buying? And they come to this level of expectations, like super transactional. Well, I did the thing. I put up the post. There's the link. Why aren't you buying it already? It's like, well, they're not buying because they're not ready. They don't trust you yet, and they don't know you yet. So they need to know you, they need to like you, and they need to trust you. You haven't established any of that yet, so they're not ready to buy. And talking about social media presence and creating an atmosphere online where people can learn to like you, learn to know you, like, and actually begin to trust you, that's a whole different Zoom. We can definitely go into that, but that's a whole different Zoom. But you have to show up, right? And you have to show up as your real self, not your fake self that everyone's like, oh, look at her, she's got it all together. I mean, unless you are one of those people that somehow have it all together, those people don't exist. Okay, now that I got that out of the way. So inviting people to understand your product and your opportunity. First off is use third-party tools as much as possible, okay? We have opportunity call recordings. They're in our group. I have a YouTube channel that I'm posting things to. Use those links if you haven't yet done one yourself, okay? Use them. So what is the premise behind your company? Oh, I have a great video that my founder created. Let me send it to you. And then there's a way you follow up with people. You don't just send it out there, but we're going to go through that with skill number 3, which we'll probably get to next week because I'm looking at the time and we're already coming up on the end of this one. So we'll probably just do skills 1 and 2, and then I'll try to finish with 3, 4, and 5. I can probably do 3 through 7 next week. Nonetheless, you're going to invite them to look at your product and your opportunity through a third-party resource. So a third-party tool is going to be some sort of media that's already been created. What you don't want to do is start with so what is it that you do? Bleh! Like you're just word vomiting everything about how great our company is, how great Sarah is, look at our huge mission, blah, 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 blah. You do not want to start going down that path. You can say, well, I market wine and I have an opportunity, whatever your elevator pitch is. You don't know about elevator pitch. It's like what you would say in an elevator if somebody asked you, what is it that you do? It's very quick, like 30 seconds to 1 minute would be all you have. I mean, unless it's like a really, really tall skyscraper or something, you get a very short amount of time to tell somebody what it is that you do. And you want to tell them as succinctly and quickly as possible what it is that you do. That is, so once they do that, like, oh, I'd love to see more about your wine. Okay, great. Do you have any specific questions? Like, what questions can I answer to help you get started? They're like, well, like, what kind of wine is it? Oh, I got a great video for that. Can I send it to you? If I sent it to you, would you watch it? Yeah, I'll watch it. Okay, great. Send it to them. Say, so what day do you think you could watch it? I can watch it on Monday. Do you think you can for sure watch it on Monday? Yeah, I can for sure watch it on Monday. Okay, cool. So if I call you on Tuesday, that'll be all right? Yeah, that'll be all right. Okay, great. So you let them tell you the time on Tuesday. Okay, great. What time is good for you on Tuesday? Oh, 10 a.m. is really great. I already dropped the kids off at preschool. We can talk. Okay, great. We'll talk at 10 a.m. Please put it in your phone. If you're going to be in any type of network marketing and you want to act as a professional, even if it's not your profession, you need to behave professionally. Keep your dang appointments. Put them in your phone. Set a reminder on there so it alerts you 15 to 30 minutes before your set appointment. Send them a text that says, hey, we have an appointment in 30 minutes. Is that time still good for you? Because if mama has a toddler running around with poop going all down his backside, all over the floor, she's going to look at that being like 30 minutes is not enough time to clean this mess up. So she's going to text back real quick. No, not 30 minutes, like maybe 1 hour. Okay, great. You just never know what goes on in people's world. So it's always good to give them a heads up. Hey, we have this appointment. Is this still going to be a good time for you? allow them to change it, but then get another date. So the purpose of setting follow-ups and then having an interaction with people for either your product or your opportunity is always going to be to set another exposure. It's never to just leave it alone unless they say, absolutely don't want any of it. No way, no how, which is really unusual. If they're saying no right now, it's probably because they have more questions. Because we know that the wine is fantastic. We know that the opportunity here is amazing and that it's better than any other industry in the world. So if they're saying no immediately, it's because they need more exposure. The next best question, I mean, objections are later. Right now, it's just introducing them to it. You need to set another appointment after they've watched that. The next question after they've seen your video or they've looked at whatever third-party tool you've used to expose them to your product is, what questions? What did you like best out of it? I probably wouldn't say like, so what do you think? Because that's way too open-ended. What did you like best about it? And they're going to tell you what they like best about it. Awesome. So what questions do you have that I can answer to help you get started? Well, I'm just not, okay, so here's where the objections come in. We don't have enough time to go through a bunch of objections, but there is a way to react to every single objection that validates their concern and then offers them more information and then creates another touch point so that they have another exposure. Because most of the time, if there's an objection, it's because of those three things, right? They're just still uneducated. The whole point of our industry is to create an environment where we can educate them about what we're doing and why we're doing it and what we have to market. Is encounter and educate. Encounter, educate. So we always have calls that you can invite people to. You should always have a standing tasting once a month in your area, either in your house or at someone's house or at a restaurant or a park, somewhere. So you always have an event to invite people to. I mean, can you imagine going to the library and you're looking at books and she's looking at books and you guys start talking about, oh yeah, can't wait till this day's over. I'm gonna have a glass of wine. She's like, oh, I love wine. But like, you do? Well, I have a wine tasting actually coming up in 2 weeks. Would you like to go? Well, look at that. You've already exposed her to your product. You've already gotten her contacts. And now you put her in your app. You've got her contact and you've already been able to invite her to a personal event. I mean, that's like checking squares like crazy, right? This is how simple these interactions can be. Okay, great. Well, now that I have your contact information, I'll go ahead and send you an invite. You make an invite on Canva, you shoot it out there. Easy peasy, done. When I do an opportunity, or not an opportunity event, but a wine tasting here at my house, I'm starting them back up again. I let it go for the summer because nobody was coming because it was summertime. People were busy. So I just said, all right, we'll let that go for a couple of months. I'll start that back up again. The price of entry for the people who are already customers or familiar with our wine is that they bring somebody new. That's all I ask. They don't have to bring a snack. They don't have to, clearly they're not paying for anything because that is not compliant. I just ask that they bring somebody new. Hey, if you could bring a friend, that would be amazing. Even if it's a phone friend, even if you like phone a friend, like FaceTime somebody and be like, hey, I'm at this girl's house. We're having a wine tasting. And I can say, hey, it's me. I'm okay. I'm okay with a virtual friend. Granted, they can't taste what we have. And they can't really like be in the presence and the energy of somebody who's really excited about what they're doing. But I will take a virtual friend because we kind of live in the virtual era. So with that, that is how you're going to go about introducing people to your product and your opportunity, is to have an opportunity call to invite them to either our team calls or corporate calls. Okay. And if you, for whatever reason you don't, I mean, we'll have live ones set up, but if you wanted to do one on your own, you could totally do that. Do your own opportunity call, but have something, always know when they are and have the replays on the ready so that you can shoot them out a link immediately. Hey, when can you look at this? Okay. When would be the best time? I can look at it tomorrow. Okay, great. For sure tomorrow. So look, if they say for sure, I'm going to watch it tomorrow. And then you call them up the next day and they're like, you know what? I didn't watch it. Like, that's okay. That happens. So when do you think you can for sure watch it? Like, you just change the verbiage so that the impression is like you're up in the ante, like, okay, for sure wasn't enough, but for sure can watch it. When do you think that would happen? Oh, for sure tomorrow at 5. Okay, great. and then henceforth with the further touch points after you set the next appointment. So if they're not ready, then okay, well, can I send you a little bit more about, you know, what we do with, gosh, our grower partners? Can I share a little bit more about that? Or if you have talked to them and you get to know the things that are important to them, oh, can I share about the soil to sip report that we have available too? I know you're a fitness minded person. That might be something of value to you. Can I send you more information on that for you to take a look? Oh, yeah, sure. I'd like to take a look at that. Okay, when do you think you can look at it for sure? I think I could probably look at it for sure on Thursday. Okay, cool. So if I contacted you on Friday, would that be okay? Of course, that'll be okay. You can contact me on Friday. Okay, what time do you think would be great? 9 a.m. Okay, awesome. I'll contact you 9 a.m. on Friday and see what you thought about the soil to sip report. Okay, great. So the idea here is to compress your level of touch points to a very short amount of time, because if you're like, I'll contact you next week, like it's too long. They've already forgotten about it. Try and get these touch points compressed as much as possible. And then we get people to the point where they've had enough exposure, they've had enough education that they're now ready to make either a purchasing or a joining decision. Okay. Those are the first two skills that are listed in this book. And I know I said a lot about them. I hope that was of some value for you guys. We'll go over skills 3 through 7 next week. And then we'll wrap up this book. And I've already started a new book. So I have a new book to coach on after that. But first off, since Chelsea's, you're the only one on live, do you have any questions about what I shared tonight?
No, I don't. Thank you so much. Very helpful. And I actually have GoPro. I read it a couple of years ago.
Awesome.
When, yeah, so it's a nice refresher. I mean, I definitely, it was quite a bit ago. So I
Yeah.
definitely it's good to refresh yourself on that book and that
Yeah.
information and just kind of, especially since I'm, kind of revamping myself,
Yeah.
getting back started. It's great. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. We'll definitely revisit it, get your highlighter out and like, oh yeah, all of that sounds very familiar. And then we'll wrap up the book next week and then we'll start a new book, which will probably be Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to like do a book club thing and they want to get ahead of the game, they can have more conversation pieces. I'm totally fine with that. Like I'm not like I got to do all the things person, not at all. I'm just doing it because I'm the leader of the team. So I mean, that's just what you do, right? Anyway, I love talking to you guys. I love being able to record these. I love being able to connect with you. I know not everybody can make it. I know it's not on everybody's forefront of their minds at this point because the regularness of these meetings is still pretty new, but I expect that once people get a little more activated, they'll get on here and then we'll have this thriving, beautiful community. But anyway, that's what my prayer is for. All right, cool, Chelsea. Well, thank you so much for being here.